Make yourself aware of speed limits everywhere you go, because speed is a big factor. If you go 10 miles under the speed limit or 10 miles over the speed limit, you're going to fail. And of course, depending on the traffic flow, you know, we can understand, or the weather conditions, you are going to have to go a little slower sometimes, but there are times when as soon as you get on this road that the speed limit is 50 miles per hour, you're going to have to step on the gas.
Going through school zones, there's a misconception about what speed you should be traveling at during a school zone. You know, they always ask me, what does a sign mean when it says 25 when children are present? And I basically tell them it means just that, okay? Present, if they're there, if you can see them, that means they're present. So that means you should be at 25.
If there is no one around, then we expect them to go the speed limit, which is 40 miles per hour.
When you have a double left turn lane, you can get into the inside lane or the outside lane. Now, when you make your left turn on a green light, if you commit to that inside left turn lane, you have to make sure that you stay and end in your inside left turn lane. If you're on the outside lane, you can end in either lane to the outside.
They're so used to making that left turn and merging all the way to the far lane that when it becomes a double turning lane, now it's designated lane to designated lane, they don't tend to do the turn correctly.
If they're on the inside lane, they will usually in the middle of the intersection cross over to the outside lane without checking for traffic in that lane, and vice versa. If they're on the outside lane, they tend to cross over on the inside lane and cause a problem there. And those are critical errors.
The biggest mistakes I'll see is they won't make complete stops, or they will just kind of come up, look, and roll right through the stop.
And people think that they've paused or that they've rolled to a stop and there's nobody in the intersection, and that's enough. But we're not called to mark it if it's enough. We're called to mark it if it's not done at all.
Stopping over the limit lines is another big one, because again, they feel they're looking to see if it's clear, especially on right turns. They want to pull up and see if it's clear to make that right turn, so they fail to make their proper stop behind the limit line and check first to see if anyone needs to cross.
I would say 90% of the people out there taking drive tests are extremely confused with that limit line. And you know, we want to get it out there that all they need to do is stop, look left and right for pedestrians. If there are none, creep up. If they cannot see traffic, creep up so that they can see traffic better. And then from that point, make their turns.
A lot of times there are school buses on our particular route, and our applicant will just drive right through with the red lights on. You have children crossing, and that's an automatic fail because they didn't stop. Whether they're on the same side of the bus or the opposite side of the bus, you have to stop until those red lights go off.
The most common reason in our drive test that causes a critical error on a drive test is usually the red arrow, making a right turn against a red right turn arrow on our specific route. And usually they do that safely. They will stop and they'll look, and it'll be done safely. However, it is illegal and it's not correct. You are to come to a complete stop and not attempt to move. You're supposed to hold your position until the light turns green. At this particular stoplight, we want to make a left turn, and then when the light turns green and we have oncoming traffic, sometimes the applicant doesn't realize that they have to wait for oncoming traffic before they can make their left turn.
If they have a green protected arrow, then they know that the car that's coming is supposed to stop. So when they see a solid green light, they think of the rule of the green arrow. They think, okay, my light is green, I'm going to go, this guy should be stopping, and he doesn't stop. When it's a green signal and you're going to make a left turn, you have to yield to the car that's coming.
You need to edge out into the middle of the intersection, wait for all oncoming traffic to go through, whether they're turning or going straight, and wait for the pedestrians to cross. Then complete your left turn in a safe manner.
Don't worry if you're in the intersection when the light turns red. You've entered legally on a green light, so other traffic has to wait for you to clear before they can proceed.
Some of the most common mistakes that drive test applicants make are crosswalks. Okay, when you come to an intersection, they go right in the crosswalk, and next thing you know, there's 2-3 people standing, on the corner wanting to cross. The whole point of the crosswalk is you have to stop behind the line. Then you check for pedestrians, right or left, and then if there's no pedestrians, you can move up into the crosswalk after that, so you can see around the corner. And you look, and then if everything's good, you keep going.
You need to understand the right of way, who turns, who changes, who goes, who stops. There's nothing there to help you to say, okay, if the car on your right gets there first, then he goes first. You have to already know that, ahead of time. And the way you drive will tell whether or not you understand the right of way. So you need to make sure that you understand that.
I was in an accident one time, and it was for changing lanes. The young lady that I took out failed to check her blind spot, and she signaled. She looked in her mirror, but she didn't see the car in the blind spot. Needless to say, we ended up in a little fender bender. There's 3 things you got to do when you change lanes. You have to do it in that order because there's a certain procedure. You let your signal run, and while it's running, you look in your mirror. Then once you've made sure that there's nothing there, you merge over and you're safe.
A lane change should be just a really simple thing. You have your blinker on, you look in the mirror, you look over your shoulder, and you did everything right, and you see that there's a vehicle there, well then turn your signal light off, go down the road, try again later. It's that simple.
Sometimes you could be doing a really great job, even though you have a signal, you're telling everybody what you're doing next. The other guy just may not care, and he might go in anyways. Before you know it, you're trying to avoid sideswiping a vehicle that's there. If an applicant approaches a right turn, there's a bicycle lane, and they're approaching, they have their signal on, they're just looking straight, they don't look in the mirror, they don't look over the shoulder, that is a critical error. If they approach a left turn, entering the center left turn lane, and they signal, and that's all they do, that before they enter, they don't look, that's another critical error. So those will automatically cause them to fail.
Any lane change requires that you signal, check your mirrors, and check your blind spot. This includes merging into another lane when your lane ends, leaving a curb when pulling into traffic, merging into a bike lane, or merging into a center turn lane.
That's great information. I can relate to a lot of those reasons. But there is one reason for failing that you didn't mention.
What's that?
Being nervous. That probably affected me the most on my test.
You're right, Kyle. You're right. Being nervous can affect your performance. In fact, that's probably a contributing factor for most of the reasons we've talked about. And you can't help getting nervous, but there are some things you can do to minimize it.
Like what?
There are 3 things. Practice, practice,
Practice. Yeah.
The more experience you have driving, the more confident you'll be and the less nervous you'll feel. It also helps to come in a car that you've driven a lot and that you're comfortable with. And of course, you want to familiarize yourself with the area around the DMV before taking the test.
You're right. I need to practice more. I guess I was in too much of a hurry to get my license.
Most people are. And DMV wants you to get your license too. That's why we made this video.
Well, I appreciate the help. Now I know what to do before my next test.
You're going to do really well, Kyle.
I think so too. Thanks to you, of course.
I'm glad I could help. You take care.
Sure thing.
And drive safely.
All right.